Hi everyone, thank you very much for stopping by and returning to the old world. Today we're turning our attention to the Age of Sigmar. Why, pray tell? Because there's a release of some figures coming down the line which could actually be useful for those old world players out there. Yes, I'm talking about the latest pre-order, the Gitmobz. Now, to be honest, I know incredibly little about Age of Sigmar. I've got very little interest in it. So things like the new battle tome for the Gloomspite Gits, I don't really know anything about it and can't really comment. However, we are seeing a bunch of models coming out which could, I think, be of interest. First of these is Drogs the Sun Chomper. Now, whatever this may be in Age of Sigmar, what it actually can definitely be is a goblin on a giant wolf. In the spirit of all things Age of Sigmar, this is a pretty dynamic, pretty intricate model. It's very different from the usual fare that we can expect to see from the historic Wolf Riders from the old Warhammer Fantasy Battle days. It does have, say, quite a lot going on, but does offer a more perhaps interesting figure that you might want to think about when it comes to a war boss, if that's the route you're taking with your orcs and goblins, particularly if you're utilising that nomadic war. Following on its heels, we've got the Snarl Boss and Wolfgit Retinue Wolf Riders. Again, much like the first model, we're looking at something that is pretty dynamic. And looking at these wolves, I have to say I do quite like the way they look. I really like the flow of them. It looks like a bunch of goblins on the charge, racing around the flanks of their opponent, harrying them, and generally making a nuisance of themselves. Just what you'd expect to see from a pack of wolf riders. Then there's the Snarl Boss on War Wheeler. This could be a goblin wolf chariot, or it could also act as a character on a wolf chariot. This model comes with options, so it can either be a hitty character, or it can be a Frazzlegit Shaman. So you can have a wizard or a combat character on your chariot. I really have to say I'm loving the look of these figures. They look so much like you'd want your goblin forces to appear. And I can sort of see maybe a place for some wolf chariots in my army. Not entirely sure yet. I'm not fully committed to exactly how I'm going to make out the 2,000 points. But these are certainly units that have caught my eye as a possible. Obviously, I would need to get separate bases that meet the old world requirement, as opposed to those of Age of Sigmar. Sunstealer Wheelers, more wolf chariots. Again, pretty figures actually. Look like they'll offer something different from the standard fare, and I'll be interested to see how much they come out at cost-wise when compared to the classic wolf chariot for Warhammer the Old World. Snarlpack Cavalry. Okay, these are perhaps pushing things a little bit too far. It looks like there's one of the models, or a couple of the models, potentially are two goblins on the back of a single wolf. That's pushing the imagery perhaps a little bit too far. These are, I think, much more elaborate looking models than the Wolfgit Retinue. Wolfgit Retinue I like. These, yeah, these not so much, I think. They're just not quite doing it for me to the same extent. Then we have, last but by no means least, the Doom Diver Catapult. Doom Divers, pretty fun, and this is a very different way of modelling that from the quite basic construction we saw from the old Warhammer Fantasy Battle days. Initially, when I saw this model, it did make me think very much of the ogre war machines. It had that sort of vibe to it. Again, there's quite a bit going on here. It seems a bit of an interesting, overly elaborate construct maybe for what is effectively a goblin being launched by a giant elastic band. But again, I can't see it failing to fit in as long as that model will fit on the appropriate base. But overall, actually, I think we've hit a really nice, rich vein of goblin potential here. These are all things that would fit in to some extent to an orc and goblin army, and they'd give you a bit of a differential. It's much like the new Age of Sigmar Marauders of Chaos, for example, and the Warriors of Chaos, which, although they do come from technically separate ranges, they could definitely be used in our Warhammer Old World armies if you want to go down that slightly different look, slightly more dynamic poses, rather than worrying so much about ranking things up. Yes, you might need to do a little bit of conversion work. Yes, they might be a little bit awkward on the bases, but they definitely give you a little bit of look different to play with, although I'd imagine they will not rank up nicely with existing Old World models, just because the look of them is a little bit different and they are very much their own thing. So that's it, a quick run through of what we're seeing from the latest Age of Sigmar release that's coming down the tracks, and one that will, I think, excite certain elements of the Old World crowd. If you've got any comments on these figures, do let me know down in the comments below. Otherwise, all that remains for me to say is thank you very much for listening. If you've enjoyed this video and other ones like it, particularly maybe news about upcoming models and my thoughts on those, do consider subscribing. It's the best way of helping a channel that's quite small, such as this one, and also to stay on top of new videos coming out. Once again, thank you very much for listening. I am returned to the old world. Have a great day.